Hey guys, welcome to lesson 3. Here we're going to be making our first form, and form's obviously really important in any application. And this form, we can just type in a name and an email address, and then we can just submit it. We can say, and then in the pop-up or in the window that opens up, we're going to see that information that we put into the form. So let's get started. So again, we're going to be working in our live session project right here. And we have live session.java, and we're actually going to create another folder called userform.java that's going to really hold all of the content in our form. So in here, new Java class userform. Cool. Okay, we're good. So going back to live session, now how we're going to approach our main, so this is sort of our main driver class. How we're going to approach this is we're going to use this a bit like a table of contents. So all of our different I'd say classes or objects are going to be created right here, in here, but the main functionality, so all the sort of specific code involving text, clicking, events, that's all going to be happening in other files. So here we're just going to write a line of code, user form equals new user form. And we're going to make that visible. We'll say form.setVisible. Now this form is actually just a frame that we're going to create in our user form class, our user form file. So if we click on this file now, user form, we're going to create everything for our application in here. And we're basically triggering all of this in our live session by creating a user form object and then making it visible. So let's go to our user form class right here. And what we're going to do is, this is going to be a JFrame. So we're going to extend JFrame. And we also need to import some libraries. So we'll do import our usual javax.swing.star. Get everything from Swing. We need to get, we need to get our awt.event. So java.awt.event.action event. And remember, that's there. This and our next import statement are mainly going to be there just to be able to allow us to create buttons and initiate actions based on those buttons. And that's actually all we need to, we also need to do this, java.awt.star. Now this line technically does import the action event and action listener, but we would have to, we would just have a longer statement to access these if we didn't have these lines right here. So just for convenience. Anyways, we're going to create our constructor, public user form, just by giving it the same name as our class. And in here, we're going to have set title. And our title is going to be user information form, because we're basically, the idea behind this form is it's somewhere where a user would just put in their information. And as we can see right here, user information form. Now next, I'm going to say set size, width of 300, height of 200, pretty typical. Set location relative to null. And this is just placing our window in the center of the screen when we open it up. And we've seen this before, set default close operation. Exit on close. And this is just to close the application when we hit the X button. So when we hit this button right here, just end the application. And then finally, we're going to set a layout. So we're going to set layout, new flow layout. So we've already seen the flow layout, but this is going to have a twist. So new flow layout, and then flow layout dot center. Now the last one that we worked with wasn't centered. So basically what this is saying is that anything that we have in our application, basically it's going to be centered. And so we're just going to be filling up a line with everything being centered. And then when we run out of space on that line, we're going to go to the next line, and everything on that line is going to be centered as well. So we're starting in the center and then working our way outwards, keeping everything centered, only moving to the next line when we've completed our previous line. So now that we've done that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to actually create these form fields. So label and a form that we can fill in. So we're just going to start by creating just this line right here. So we're going to say JLabel name label equals new JLabel name. And then we're going to create our actual text field, our form field. We're calling it a text field because we can type text in there. So J text field. And we're going to call it a name field because we can actually write a name in there. And that's going to be new J text field. And we're basically going to be able to type in 20 characters. So we're just going to say 20. And then we're going to add both of these to our frame. So we're going to do add name label. And we're going to do add name field. And one thing you might be wondering is why we haven't created a panel like we did in our previous example. So we're not creating a panel in this example just because I didn't want to make it more complex, and panels are used when we have multiple containers. So for example, if we had a more complex form, so if we had a form here, some buttons here, etc., if you had something more complex, then we would utilize panels. But here we have a fairly simple user interface, so I'm not going to bother using panels. It is something we'll come back to, particularly when we have more complex user interfaces that we want to break into kind of subcomponents or subsections. But for now, we're just going to stick with our frame in this example. So this actually just takes care of our first line right here. So we have our name label. Put this right here. We have our name label right here. We have our text field right here. And then both of these have been added to the frame. So now we're just going to go ahead and create this line. And to do that, I'm just going to copy paste because it's essentially the same code. So we're going to call this an email label. Make our label, the text for our label is going to be email. And then we're going to have also a JText field, but we'll call it email field. And we need to add our email label and our email field to the frame, to the current frame that we're working in, the user form. All right. So now that we've done that, we can go ahead and create our button, our submit button. So for that, we're going to say JButton, submit button, equals new JButton, and then the text that's actually going to go on the button is just going to be submit. And then we can add that submit button to our frame. Well, basically to our user form, a frame that we already have right here. Add submit button. And then we need to create our action listener. So basically allow us to trigger some event when we click on the submit button. So we're going to say submit button dot add action listener. New action listener. Again, I'm just typing this all out, but this is something that you can just kind of copy paste when you're doing this on your own. And I'll have at override public void action performed action event E. And so in here, this is actually where we're going to have our code that is going to be triggered when you click the submit button. So we're going to do a couple of things. Actually, I'm just going to add this right here. So first, we're going to say we're going to create a string or a variable of string type. We're going to say string name equals name field dot get text. And this is going to be getting, so as soon as we click the submit button, we're going to get any text that is currently in our name field, and we're going to store it in the name variable. Then you might have been able to guess this. We're going to have string email equals email field dot get text. And both of these fields right here, so name field is referring to this text field we created right here. Email field is referring to this email field that we created right here. Now that we've done that, we want to show a pop-up with this information. So we're going to do J option pane dot show message dialog user form dot this. This is a JFrame. So user form dot this is basically referring to the object we would currently be working in. And then we're literally just going to create a string. Our string is going to be, we're going to create the string that we're going to show as a message. So right here we are doing submit, and then we see this right here. And we need to create a string to show our information in this format, like kind of nicely formatted. So we're going to have name plus name, referring to the name we got from the name field, plus a new line. So email plus email. And yeah, so this is actually going to be n. So this /n refers to a new line. So basically, like that means that we're going to have name emit, and then we're going to go to the next line and then have email, and then whatever email address was typed in. And that's our message. And then we're going to title the pop-up user information. And then basically this whole pop-up is just an informational message, so it's going to be formatted that way. So JOption pane dot information message. You can see we have a bunch of different possibilities here. Okay, then we do need to have a semicolon right here to close that off. And that is pretty much it. So this is basically a frame in which we built a form. And we're basically creating an object based on this class here. So we're basically creating our form and then making it visible right in this code in our main class, in our live session class. So let's close up our sample application and go ahead and try to run this. And yeah, there's actually an error right here. That's it. Okay, save it, save this, and let's run it all. Okay, cool. So right here we've got our name, and then we've got our email address. And then we can just go ahead and submit this right here. And it looks pretty good. So interestingly, it kind of showed up like this, but then when we made it a bit bigger, it actually looked better. So it actually, everything was on the same line. So that might be an indication that we actually want to maybe increase the size. So maybe just make the width a bit bigger. And let's try running that. So we'll close this up and then just run this again. Okay, that's actually interesting. So we made it bigger, but because there's still space on this line, it actually went to the next line. So we'll probably just change it back. Probably making it 350 pixels would look better, but we're not going to go into that at this moment. Just a little experiment. Anyways, that's the end of lesson 3. See you next time.